those of you who haven't realized yet, there are lots of pro words in PROMISE, process being one of them. So it stands for Produce Creative, Effective, Simple Solutions. It's a leadership framework that we have been putting together. So I'm going to touch on process. Denise is going to speak about progress. Zahur and Hoheit in the morning talked about protect and how we'll bring that work forward. I'll also touch on some patient experience and the restricted practice data. We have an entire session on space program. Sep and Hisham are going to speak about production, and I'm going to touch on Project 52 as well. So what gives us the credibility to talk about leadership? So this is last 6 months data for the entire trust, not just Adult Directorate, but the entire trust. And as you would notice that we had a bad month in June. So the prone restraints are included in the total number of, so 34 includes that 17. But other than that, it's been a downward curve. So if you compare this to the 6 months in 2014, you would have seen about 25 to 30 prone restraints a month. And now we are down to 4 a month. That's for the entire trust. And for the Adult Directorate, we have 10 of the wards, including a PQ and Springbank, which are specialist wards. Most of our wards actually have been prone restraint free for quite a few months. Now that is something to be really celebrated, actually. And actually a lot of our wards have been restraint free for some months as well. Our assessment units, they have been restraint free for a period of time. So that has been done by the leadership, a lot of whom are in this room over here. The training department, so that gives us credibility to talk about leadership, a leadership framework. So the patient experience data is even more interesting. So this is 1,000-odd surveys. So this is not a small sample size we are talking about. And you would notice that, would you care your rate as good, very good, as excellent? Around a 90% average. And if you keep in mind that 35 to 40% of our patients might be sectioned under the Mental Health Act, for them to say that the care is good, very good, or excellent speaks very highly of our nursing workforce or our healthcare assistants. And that, again, is only possible because we have good leadership in place. Similar kind of scores, well, actually much higher scores. Do you feel welcome on the ward? 97, 98%. Do you feel safe on the ward? Kind of, again, in the 90% range. Are staff polite and friendly? Again, that's in the kind of, well, a lot of them scored 100%. Do you feel treated with respect and dignity? Again, high 90s. Do you know what's in your medication? What medication is being prescribed for you? Quite high scores, but it again shows that was this shared as a way. There is a bit of distance to go for that. So some really excellent patient experience data, which again adds to the credibility. So what is process? Process is a paradigm of co-producing a new discourse in mental health. A discourse which empowers patients to take the driving seat in moving towards life beyond illness, a discourse which creates hope and agency, a discourse which empowers staff to continuously re-innovate the wheel and make those small changes that have a big impact. A discourse in which staff and patient can work in partnership to transform the entire recovery journey. Now, crafting, scripting, or that matter, enacting a discourse like that is a fairly complex affair. If you think about it, staff who are using force or coercion and believe completely that they are doing so in the best interest of the patient or because it's necessary, it can be very disheartening, divisive, to say the least. It's a tricky affair. Patients who are once at the receiving end of such interventions struggle to tap into their inner resources. They struggle to see that there might have been opportunities for themselves to kind of change the trajectory that they were on. So a delicate balance of support and challenge needs to be there, both for staff and patients. So acknowledging staff sensitivities while crafting this story about eliminating reliance on force, while at the same time kind of pushing staff to kind of keep breaking through frontiers of humane care is what we need. Now, the conventional change models do not have that kind of subtle changes built in them. They, whichever one you look at, whether you look at quarters or the other change models that are around. And the change models also do not account for the role that patients could play in co-producing novel solutions, working with staff together. So process is our attempt at mapping out our journey, breaking it into bite-sized chunks. Those who know me know that I'm wedded to the concept of three, so it's 3 lots of threes over here, with envision, enable, and enact being those 3 parts of the journey. So in the first phase, envision, it was all about capturing, and this journey would have started sometime when we were in an acute directorate structure, January 2013, I would have thought. It was about capturing the workforce imagination, captivating them with a story that we could co-produce and share together, and engaging in real inquiry and exploration of what were the issues. And you would remember the quarterly meetings we had in which we tried to reframe some of the questions that we were asking of ourselves. Our organization had come through quite a difficult turnaround, which had its toll on staff, and moving away from this whole idea of something's requiring and targets and moving towards our goals. So there was a whole kind of set of things which we have done around framing questions, and kind of, this is actually from Hertfordshire, one of our partners, with this kind of thought about more light, less heat, and how can we kind of go on a journey of shared discovery. Also at the same time, empowering staff. I'm moving through them quite quickly as Peter's given me the sign. So I was going to say Peter showed me the finger, but I thought better not to say that. We'll have to edit this one out of that video. So how do we start to shift mindsets of our workforce? You know, the mindset that staff were left with was, you know, I'm just a cog in the machine. How do we kind of move it to a mindset which said, actually, I can make a difference and small changes do matter? So, you know, I'm a great believer in this 4 levers of influence model. So if I was told that actually, and I always go back to skydiving, because if I was still, I find that a pretty scary thought, that if I went skydiving, CPFT will give away £1,000 to my favorite charity, Save the Children. I'll find that pretty compelling. If I was told that my salary would be double that month if I went, and if I didn't, it will be halved. If I was bought a champion skydiver to be trained, and then they took Peter skydiving as well, most probably I will end up going skydiving. So it's how do we shift those mindsets across the journey and continuously re-innovating the wheel. You know, we have had some beautiful examples which we'll hear in the next session about how something starts off in one place and how it innovates over time. And by time, I mean 6 months, not a very long period of time. And finally, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You know, if you cannot execute what you have come up with, it's not going to make a difference. So kind of someone has an idea, we are following a very simple process of proof of concept and then scaling it up to proof of feasibility. Denise is going to talk about progress, which will be, you know, you need to kind of evaluate the impact of this. And finally, something that we are trying to set up with our partners around Project 52, which would be sharing innovations across the globe, 52 weeks in a year, so 1 innovation per organization. So that's Project in a nutshell.
Thank you very much.